When I look back at my life, I realize something that took me many years to truly understand. Most people are not limited by their abilities. They are limited by their thinking. And the sad part is, they don't even notice it happening. Thinking small becomes a habit, a comfortable little box that feels safe. I grew up in a world where everyone around me thought small. They didn't dream of building companies or changing industries. They just wanted a stable job, a predictable life, a routine they could cling to. And for a long time, I thought that was normal. But what I didn't see back then was that normal was actually a prison. You see, small thinking feels warm, like a blanket. It makes you feel protected from disappointment. People say, don't dream too big, you'll get hurt. But in reality, thinking small is what hurts the most. It slowly suffocates your ambition. It kills your potential. One small compromise at a time. I failed my exams many times. I applied to jobs and got rejected again and again, even when KFC came to China. I was the only one in the group who didn't get hired. But the real failure back then wasn't the rejection. The real failure was that I started lowering my expectations of myself. I told myself maybe a simple life is enough. I convinced myself that thinking small would protect me. I didn't understand that thinking small was actually the most dangerous decision I could make. When everyone around you thinks small, they will make you feel guilty for wanting something bigger. They'll tell you, why you? Who do you think you are? I heard those questions so many times. My friends would laugh when I talked about the internet. They thought I was crazy for believing that technology could change China. But here is the truth that people don't like to hear. The environment you live in shapes the size of your dreams. If you stay around small thinkers long enough, you start shrinking without realizing it. It happens quietly. It happens slowly. And one day you wake up and your life is exactly what everyone else expected. Ordinary. Thinking small is the most comfortable way to fail. It's failure disguised as logic. It's fear pretending to be wisdom. But I learned something powerful. If your dreams don't scare people, they're too small. The world doesn't reward safety. It rewards vision. That's why thinking big, especially when everyone else thinks small, is the first and most important step toward greatness. It forces you to break the walls of that invisible prison. It pushes you to become someone you've never been before. Failure is a stepping stone. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. And the size of your thinking determines the size of your future. If you want to escape the life everyone else is trapped in, you must begin by stretching the borders of your mind. You must dare to think beyond what your environment considers normal, because the truth is simple. Your life can only grow as big as your thinking allows. When I first started talking about building an internet company in China, people didn't just disagree with me. They were afraid of me. And at that time, I didn't understand why. I thought they were afraid the idea would fail. But as I grew older, I realized something deeper. People are not afraid you will fail. They are afraid you will succeed. Because when you succeed, you force them to confront the smallness of their own imagination. Big thinkers don't just disrupt industries. They disrupt the comfort of those who never dared to dream. When I announced Alibaba, my friends laughed. Some told me directly, Jack, be realistic. Nobody in China will use the internet. Nobody will buy from strangers. Their voices were confident, logical, even protective. But behind their words was fear. Fear that someone from their circle, someone just like them, could rise beyond what they believed was possible. Big ideas are uncomfortable because they challenge the excuses people use to justify staying small. And when you challenge someone's excuses, you don't just make them uncomfortable, you make them defensive. Every bold move I made in my life triggered criticism, jealousy, and sometimes even anger, not because people were bad, but because my ambition highlighted their fears. When you think big, you become a mirror. You reflect to others what they could have done but didn't, and that reflection can be painful for people who have already accepted a life of limitation. That's why big thinkers always look arrogant, dangerous, or delusional in the eyes of those who refuse to grow. It's easier for them to attack your dreams than to question their own. I remember once telling a group of people that China could become one of the world leaders in e-commerce. They actually laughed out loud. Not because the idea was funny, but because acknowledging it meant accepting how small their own expectations were. Small thinkers cling to predictability. They love routines. They love certainty. They believe success should look like a straight, narrow path. So when someone dares to step off that path, they panic. They think you're about to drown, and they want to pull you back, not to save you, but to make sure you don't rise above them. The world only remembers doers, not talkers. But talkers will always try to convince you that doing is too risky. One thing I learned the hard way is this. When people fear your ambition, it's a sign you're finally dreaming at the right scale. It means your vision has grown bigger than their comfort zone. And people will always protect their comfort before they protect your potential. That's why I tell young people, if your ideas make everyone around you comfortable, they're not big enough. Comfort is the enemy of progress, and criticism is often just the noise made by people whose dreams are too small to understand yours. The moment you start thinking big, you will scare people. But don't take that as a warning. Take it as confirmation. Means you're stepping into a space where average minds cannot follow. And that's exactly where you need to be if you want to create a life no one can ignore. When I was young, I never imagined that being an outsider could be a strength. At that time, it felt like the biggest burden of my life. I didn't come from wealth. I didn't have connections. I wasn't good at exams. I wasn't physically strong. Everywhere I went, I stood out, but not in a good way. People looked at me and saw someone who didn't belong. And for many years, I believed them. I thought being an outsider meant I had to work twice as hard just to be average. But later, I discovered that being underestimated was not a weakness. It was my greatest advantage. You see, when you are the outsider, nobody expects anything from you. That may sound depressing, but it's actually freedom. When people have low expectations of you, you are free to try things they wouldn't dare to attempt. I remember when I first talked about the internet, everyone said, "Jack, you don't understand technology. You don't speak good English. You didn't study in the West. Who will trust you?" They thought they were insulting me. But what they didn't know was that by pushing me to the edges, they were pushing me into the perfect position to think differently. Outsiders are not trapped by traditional expectations. We don't have to fit into the boxes society builds. And because we don't fit, we learn how to break them. Being rejected again and again taught me something important. Rejection is not a wall, it's fuel. Every time someone looked at me and saw not enough, I used it as energy to think bigger. When KFC rejected me, when schools rejected me, when companies rejected me, I realized something powerful. If nobody believes in you, then nobody can limit you. You're no longer tied to their small dreams. You're no longer required to follow their predictable path. You become free to imagine a future so big they can't comprehend it. Most people spend their lives fighting for approval. They want to be accepted. They want to be recognized. They want to belong. But approval is a trap. When you try to be accepted by the crowd, you are forced to think like the crowd, and the crowd rarely thinks big. Big thinkers don't seek approval. They seek possibility. They use their outsider position as a weapon, not a wound. The world remembers doers, not talkers, and outsiders often become the boldest doers because they have nothing to protect and everything to build. When nobody believes in your dream, it becomes pure. It becomes untouched by the fears and limitations of others. That purity is your advantage. It gives you clarity. It gives you courage. It gives you permission to build something extraordinary. When you are on the outside, you can see angles the insiders miss. You can create solutions they would never consider. And you can dream at a scale they've forgotten is even possible. So if you feel like an outsider today, don't be discouraged. Don't think you're behind. Don't think you're unlucky. Realize this, you are being positioned to think bigger than the people who rejected you. Outsiders change the world because they're not chained to it. Use your position. Use your pain. Use your freedom from expectations. Because the truth is simple. Outsiders aren't at a disadvantage. Outsiders are the only ones who can truly think big when everyone else thinks small. When I first started Alibaba, I noticed something surprising about people who failed early. It wasn't that they lacked intelligence. It wasn't that they lacked opportunity. It was that they were obsessed with the shortest path. They wanted quick answers, quick results, quick rewards. They wanted success to be convenient. And when success didn't arrive immediately, they quit. That is the mindset of small thinkers. They don't see beyond the next step, so they choose the easiest one. But every easy choice comes with a price far greater than the discomfort they were trying to avoid. I used to think the greatest danger in life was failure. But I learned something far more painful. The greatest danger is succeeding at something too small. Many people spend their whole lives winning tiny battles and then wonder why their life never changes. They choose short-term comfort over long-term greatness. They avoid difficult decisions and call it being realistic. They limit their dreams and call it being practical. But realism without vision is not wisdom. It's a silent graveyard where potential goes to die. I've seen brilliant people shrink their own possibilities simply because they feared discomfort. And every time they avoided a challenge, the cost was invisible but enormous. They paid with years of stagnation. They paid with opportunities they never saw. They paid with a life that never expanded. When I started dreaming about building an internet company, the people around me were trapped in this small-minded cycle. They asked me questions like, how will you make money next month? What if nobody uses it? What if it doesn't work in China? Their thinking was limited to immediate results. They wanted a guarantee before taking a step. But in business and in life, you pay for guarantees with your future. The world only rewards people who take risks, who attempt the difficult things, who accept discomfort as the price of growth. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. But small thinkers don't want bridges. They want shortcuts, and shortcuts often lead nowhere. I remember one conversation where a friend told me, Jack, I would start a business too, but I can't risk losing my salary. And I understood him, truly. I also knew what it was like to count every yuan, but his thinking was trapped. He believed the cost of risk was losing income, but the bigger cost was losing time, losing possibility, losing the chance to create a life where he didn't need to depend on a salary at all. People think small choices protect them, but they don't see the hidden tax of those choices. The tax is paid slowly, quietly, through years of unrealized potential. Thinking small is not harmless. It is expensive. It costs you dreams you will never dare to chase. It costs you opportunities you will never recognize. It costs you a bigger future that you will never get to live. When you think small, you choose comfort. But comfort is deceptive. It feels good today, but steals from tomorrow. If you want a life that means something, if you want a future that excites you, you must reject the illusion of easy paths. Choose the path that demands more from you because it will give more back. The world remembers the people who dared to go beyond what was safe, not the people who stayed comfortable, not the people who played small. If you want a big life, you must first think big, especially when everyone else chooses the small path. One of the hardest lessons I ever learned was this: the bigger your dream, the fewer people you can talk to about it. Not because you don't want to share it, but because most people simply won't understand it. And when people don't understand something, they fear it. They judge it. They try to shrink it down until it fits inside their own limited imagination. When I first spoke about building a company that would serve millions of small businesses across China, people looked at me like I was crazy. They weren't trying to hurt me. They just couldn't see what I saw. They were trapped in the world that already existed, while I was trying to build the world that didn't yet exist. I learned early that when you share a big dream with small thinkers, they don't hear possibility, they hear risk, and their fear gets projected onto you, disguised as advice. They'll say, be careful, don't expect too much, maybe try something smaller first. It sounds gentle, even caring, but it is poison to a growing vision. People who think small are uncomfortable with anything that stretches beyond their own imagination. So they don't attack your dream. They reduce it. They turn mountains into molehills. They turn ambition into naivety. And if you listen long enough, their doubts become your doubts. Their limits become your limits. Their fears become your excuses. That's why big thinkers must protect their dreams like seeds. You plant them quietly. You water them quietly. You grow them quietly. You don't expose them too early to the winds of people's insecurities. When I started Alibaba, I didn't run around trying to convince everyone. I focused on building. I focused on learning. I focused on proving the idea through action, not explanation. The world only remembers doers, not talkers. And big dreams don't need to be explained. They need to be built. Some of the best ideas I had were the ones I kept to myself until they were strong enough to survive other people's doubt. A dream is like fire. Small flames go out easily. But once the fire becomes big enough, nothing can stop it. I also learned that the people who doubt you today will try to congratulate you tomorrow. That's how it always works. Big dreams look foolish until the moment they become obvious. And the people who once laughed at you will suddenly say they always believed you could do it. This is why emotional discipline is so important. If you allow yourself to be guided by other people's approval, your dream will never grow beyond what they can understand. Thinking big requires the courage to walk alone, to be misunderstood, to be doubted, even to be ridiculed. But that loneliness is temporary. The regret of shrinking your dream to fit someone else's comfort, that lasts forever. Dreams that are too big to explain are the dreams worth fighting for. They push you into new territory. They force you to grow into someone stronger, clearer, more determined. If your dream scares people, don't shrink it, protect it. If they don't understand it, don't argue. Build it. When you think big, while everyone else thinks small, your dream becomes a language only you can speak. And one day, when the world finally learns that language, they will call you a visionary. Not because you were special, but because you dared to believe in something they couldn't see. You know what surprises me the most? People say, Jack, you're so lucky. They look at Alibaba today and think it was some kind of cosmic accident, a miracle, a blessing from the universe that just fell into my lap. Let me tell you the truth, and it might offend you. Most people hide behind the word luck because they are terrified of admitting they have no plan, no discipline, and no system. Luck becomes the excuse they use to justify why someone else succeeded and they didn't. But here's the uncomfortable reality. Luck is not a strategy. Luck is not a habit. Luck is not a skill. What you call luck is almost always the result of boring, invisible, uncelebrated work done consistently over time. People want magic, they want shortcuts, they want sudden blessings. But let me show you how success really works. The myth of the lucky break. When I was building Alibaba, no investors wanted me. After 30 rejections, people said, Jack, maybe your idea just isn't lucky. Maybe the timing is bad. You see how easy that is? Blame timing, blame luck, blame the universe. But I knew something they didn't. When you have a system, you don't depend on miracles, you create outcomes. Every day I studied markets. Every week I refined the strategy. Every month I built relationships. Every year I expanded the vision. People didn't see the sleepless nights, the rejections, the failures, the sacrifices. They only saw the luck at the end. Why you must stop waiting for luck. Most people stay ordinary because they treat life like a lottery ticket. They say, maybe next year things will change. Maybe I'll get a lucky opportunity. Maybe someone will notice me. Maybe things will work out. Let me be brutally honest with. Maybe is the language of people who stay average forever. If your success relies on chance, you will stay broke. If your growth depends on someone giving you a break, you will stay stuck. If your future is controlled by external events, you lose power before you even begin. The happiest day of my life wasn't when Alibaba succeeded. It was the day I realized I will build my own luck. And from that day on, my results changed. Replace luck with predictability. Read this carefully. Extraordinary people don't chase luck. They build systems. Systems create predictability. Predictability creates confidence. Confidence creates action. Action creates results. And results create luck. You see the chain? Here's what successful people actually do. 1. They choose one path, not 10 goals, not 20 dreams. One direction. Scattered energy creates no results. 2. They build daily habits, not motivational bursts. Not once a week effort. Daily discipline that compounds. 3. They create a learning loop. They don't depend on talent. They depend on improvement. Constant, measurable improvement. 4. They remove randomness. Poor people rely on unpredictable behaviors, waking up late, inconsistent effort, emotional decision-making, reacting to everything, distracted, focus. Rich people remove randomness, consistent work blocks, optimized routines, documented goals, accountability, repeated processes. One group lives in chaos, the other lives in clarity. Which group do you think wins? The harsh truth, I want you to absorb this. If something in your life happens by accident, it can disappear by accident too. Money that comes by luck leaves the same way. Opportunities that arrive randomly vanish randomly. Success that isn't built on structure collapses under pressure. You need strength that doesn't depend on chance. Build the version of you that doesn't need luck. If I lost everything today, money, company, reputation, I would still rise again. Not because I'm lucky, but because I have the habits, the mindset, the resilience, the systems, the knowledge, the discipline. Those things don't disappear. Those things don't rely on timing. Those things don't require approval. Those things create their own luck. And that's what you must build. Stop asking for miracles. Stop waiting for the big break. Stop praying for perfect timing. Start creating a life where luck becomes irrelevant. Because once you master discipline, consistency, learning, and systems, people will look at you just like they did with me and say, wow, you're so lucky, and you'll smile because you know the truth. You didn't get lucky. You built it. Let me tell you something most people never understand. Your need to be liked is destroying your potential. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. Most people don't fail because they lack opportunity. They fail because they are too afraid to disappoint others. You cannot rise while trying to keep everyone comfortable. You cannot grow while trying to impress everyone around you. You cannot become extraordinary while living for opinions that won't even matter 5 years from now. Read this carefully. Approval is the most expensive drug in the world, and you pay for it with your future. The prison of pleasing everyone. When I was young, I wanted everyone to like me. I worked hard, not for my vision, but to avoid conflict, to avoid criticism, to avoid judgment. Then I learned something painful. The more you try to please everyone, the more they control you. You give away your power piece by piece, thinking you're being kind or humble, but in reality, you're weakening yourself. You become scared to speak your ideas, take risks, say no, stand out, pursue something bigger, challenge the status quo. You become a prisoner of people who don't even think about you at night. You sacrifice your greatness for their comfort. The day I stopped seeking approval when we started Alibaba, people laughed at me. They said, Jack, you're dreaming too big. Jack, this will never work. Jack, you're embarrassing yourself. Jack, you're crazy. If I listened to them, Alibaba would not exist. Millions of jobs would not exist. My life would be ordinary. So I did something that changed everything. I stopped caring if they approved, and I started caring if I was growing. That moment, I became free. Free to fail, free to learn, free to dream, free to build, free to become who I was meant to be. Approval chains you. Clarity frees you. Understanding the approval trap. People who seek approval believe 3 lies. Lie first. If I say no, they'll leave me. Let me tell you the truth. If someone leaves because you said no, they never respected you in the first place. Lie second. If I speak honestly, they'll judge me. They will judge you anyway. People judge the silent, the loud, the rich, the poor. Judgment is part of life. Why sacrifice your goals for an opinion that is unavoidable? Lie third. If I stand out, I'll be attacked. Yes, you will be criticized. But listen, criticism is the price you pay for leadership. Silence is the price you pay for mediocrity. Choose your price. Extraordinary people choose respect over approval. There is a huge difference between being liked and being respected. People like you for what you give them. People respect you for what you stand for. Approval is emotional sugar. Sweet, instant, addictive. Respect is long-term nutrition. Earned, stable, powerful. If you want to build a business, if you want to become a leader, if you want to rise above ordinary, you must stop chasing likability like a child. Grow up. Stand tall. Be firm. Be direct. Be committed to your vision, not their opinions. Respect comes from strength. Strength comes from conviction. Conviction comes from knowing who you are and where you're going. How approval addiction weakens you, approval seekers avoid tough decisions, hide their potential, suppress their genius, over-apologize fear, conflict, crave validation, panic when misunderstood. They will never build anything great. Why? Because building anything meaningful requires the courage to be disliked. Let me repeat that. Building anything meaningful requires the courage to be disliked. If you cannot tolerate disapproval, you cannot achieve greatness. Build the courage to disappoint others. You must become the person who can say, no, I'm busy. No, that's not my goal. No, I won't lower my standards. No, I'm not available. No, that doesn't align with my vision. Say it without guilt. Say it without fear. Say it without hesitation. Every no you say to others becomes a yes to your future. Stop shrinking yourself to fit into places you've outgrown. Stop dimming your light because others are threatened by it. Stop apologizing for wanting more. Your future depends on this one day when your success becomes undeniable. The same people who doubted you will say, I always believed in you. I always knew you'd make it. I always supported you. Don't be angry. Don't seek revenge. Just smile. Because you'll know your rise was not built on their approval. It was built on your courage to grow without it. When you stop needing to be liked, you become unstoppable. People love telling the story of Thomas Edison's 1,000 failures as if it's just a cute motivational tale. But you must understand the real lesson. Edison failed 1,000 times because he refused to think small like everyone else around him. Everyone told him the light bulb was impossible. Everyone told him candles were good enough. Everyone told him that the world didn't need something new. But Edison wasn't listening. Because people who think small can't imagine what big thinkers are building. Edison understood something simple but life-changing. Small thinkers always sound logical until a big thinker proves them irrelevant. His assistants begged him to stop. Investors told him to quit. Reporters called him a madman. Yet he kept going because he wasn't addicted to validation. He was addicted to vision. And that's what separates winners from the comfortable majority. Big thinkers see the future, while small thinkers protect the present. I often tell young entrepreneurs this truth. Most people don't fail because the goal is too big. They fail because their belief is too small. Edison didn't have special talent. He didn't have unlimited money. He didn't have a supportive environment. What he had was the stubborn courage to look foolish longer than the average person could tolerate. That courage is what creates breakthroughs. The ironic thing, once Edison succeeded, the same critics who mocked him suddenly said they always believed in him. This is the predictable cycle of human nature. People resist big ideas because big ideas expose their fear. They are scared to attempt anything beyond what they already know. When you think big, you threaten their comfort, and they respond by attacking your vision. But remember this. History never remembers the people who doubted, only the people who built. Edison's failures are not a reminder to never give up. They are a reminder that thinking small is always the safer choice, but never the better one. And every time you take a bold step, you're rewriting the future just like he did. So the next time someone tells you your idea is unrealistic, too big, too crazy, or too ambitious, smile. Because small thinkers have always been terrible at predicting what big thinkers can create. Fear is one of the most misunderstood forces in the world. When I was young, I thought fear meant stop. I thought fear meant I was not ready, not capable, not good enough. But as I grew older, I learned the truth. Fear is not a warning. It is a compass. Fear points directly toward the thing you must do if you want your life to expand. And whenever you feel it, it means you are finally thinking bigger than the people around you. Most people never discover this. They let fear shrink them. They choose comfort because comfort feels safe and safety feels responsible. But safety is the most expensive lie you will ever buy. I have met countless people in China, in Silicon Valley, in Europe, in Africa, and everywhere I see the same tragedy. People don't fail because they have no opportunity. They fail because they let fear convince them to think small, and small thinking guarantees small outcomes. When I started Alibaba, fear was my daily companion. I had no money, no connections, no government support, and no technology background. Everyone told me the idea was too big. They said I was dreaming beyond my place, and maybe they were right, but I also understood something they did not. Fear is simply the gatekeeper to the life you want. The bigger the dream, the bigger the fear. If you run from fear, you run from your future. I always say luck is when preparation meets opportunity. But opportunity only shows up when you walk toward the things that scare you. That's why small thinkers never get lucky. They avoid the very situations where luck is hiding. They hide their desire. They hide their talent. They hide their ambition behind excuses like I'm being realistic or maybe someday. But someday is just a polite way of burying your potential. The truth is, fear is not your enemy. Fear is your teacher. It shows you exactly where you need to grow. It reveals your weaknesses so you can strengthen them. It exposes your self-doubt so you can overcome it. Big thinkers don't eliminate fear. They study it. They follow it. They use it as fuel. Because you cannot think big without touching the edges of the unknown. And the unknown is always frightening at first. I want you to remember this. Fear is the price of admission for a bigger life. If your dreams don't scare you, they are not dreams. They are chores. And you weren't born to live a life of chores. You were born to live a life of expansion. Every great step you take will require courage. Every breakthrough will require discomfort. And every new level of success will require you to walk straight into something that once intimidated you. So the next time you feel fear rising in your chest, don't step back. Step forward. That is the moment you're closest to transformation. That is the moment small thinkers quit. And that is the moment big thinkers are born. People tell me all the time, Jack, I want to be careful. I want to protect what I have. And at first, I understand that feeling. Protection feels wise. Safety feels responsible. But I've learned the harsh truth. Playing safe is the most expensive choice you can make. It costs more than failure ever could. Every day you stay in your comfort zone, every decision made to avoid risk, every opportunity ignored just to be safe, all of it is silently stealing your future. Most people underestimate this cost because it doesn't hit them immediately. If you quit a project to avoid embarrassment, nothing seems lost. If you refuse to start a business because it's risky, nothing seems gone. But over time, those small safe choices add up. A life lived cautiously is a life stolen from your potential. Dreams that could have grown, people you could have influenced, skills you could have mastered, all vanish quietly. You wake up one day and realize you were paying a tax every day in lost opportunity, and it was invisible. I remember when Alibaba was just an idea. Friends and colleagues would ask, why risk so much? Why not get a government job? Why not just do something small and stable? And for a moment, I questioned myself. Stability was tempting. Predictability was appealing. But I realized that stability is not a goal. It is a trap. Safety may protect your present, but it guarantees mediocrity. The world does not reward careful people. The world rewards bold, the fearless, the persistent, and the visionary. Here's the secret. The true cost of safety is not measured in money, but in the life you never live. Playing small may feel like prudence, but it silently ensures that your impact, your influence, and your legacy will be minimal. Every day you shrink your vision to avoid criticism or failure, you are paying a tax to the world of mediocrity, and that tax compounds silently until one day you wake up and realize that your safe life is exactly what everyone else expected it to be. Ordinary, forgotten, unremarkable. I want young people to understand this. Risk is not dangerous, stagnation is. Fear is temporary, but regret is permanent. Bold action may fail, yes, but even failure teaches you. Careful inaction only teaches you how to stay small. And thinking small in order to be safe, that's the most expensive failure of all. Every second you delay your vision, every compromise you make for comfort, you are effectively renting your life from fear. And fear charges a brutal interest rate. So here is the challenge I leave you with. Stop paying the hidden tax of safety. Stop measuring your life by what feels secure or convenient. Begin measuring it by what feels possible, by what scares you, by what will stretch you, and by what will build a future no one else believes is possible. Once you understand the cost of playing safe, you'll realize that failure is not your enemy. Small thinking is. Mediocrity is the true thief of your dreams. Remember this, your life is worth more than comfort. Your future is worth more than predictability, and your potential is worth far more than the illusion of safety. Think big, move boldly, take the risks no one else will take, because every day spent thinking small is a day stolen from your greatness.